I'm so very excited to introduce you to this amazing panel of alumni, George Fox alumni. I've been really excited waiting for this because last semester it was such a favorite group that I brought in, and I think you're going to enjoy it. I know you're going to enjoy it. So I'm not going to introduce them. I'm going to have them introduce themselves and just have a few minutes to tell you their name and their major and what they are currently doing, and then we'll get the panel started. Jessi, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessi Freitag. I graduated from George Fox in 2013. I went on to get my MBA at Willamette, not too far away, and then have worked in 5 or 6 different industries, and now most recently work at a startup, Live Bar, shameless plug, organic superfood energy bars. We're located in Salem, and I oversee all of our daily operations. So I have a production facility, marketing teams, sales support teams, and different distribution channels. So kind of every day is a different day in the startup world, and that's kind of where I'm at right now.
And where did you come from just prior to this job?
Oh yeah, so most recently I was at Adidas in Portland before this, and so my husband was also there, another Fox grad, so we were both at Adidas for a while.
Yeah, is he still at Adidas?
No, he actually just started working at ADEC in Newburgh. So.
Oh my goodness, cool. All right, awesome. Okay, Seth, can we bounce to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Seth Roy. I graduated this last May, so in 2019. I graduated with a degree in entrepreneurship, as well as a degree in youth ministry. So hopefully eventually doing some nonprofit where we mix the two of those somewhere down the line. Currently I live in Sisters, Oregon. I'm actually just a couple miles away from where Lori is now. And I work for a third-party research and data analytics firm here in Bend. I commute about 45 minutes into our office there. My official title is Client Success and Special Projects Manager, so I have the great pleasure to work with accounts like IBM, Oracle, SAP, ADP, these big tech vendors. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Absolutely love my job, learning a lot. It's my first job out of school, so yeah, enjoying it.
Great. Victoria.
Hello, I'm going to unmute myself. Hi, everybody. I'm a 2015 grad of the Business Management program. And right now I'm working as a marketing specialist at Medical Teams International. And I will give you guys a little plug for our logo since Jessi did. This is who we are. We are an international healthcare organization based out of Tigard, actually. And before that, I was working at a PR agency for about 4 years, specifically on the Microsoft account. So I made a pretty big career change about 8 months ago now. And yeah, I'm really excited to hear your guys' questions. And I'm an Enneagram 2, if I want to add something fun in there. Super into the Enneagram. I'm sure you guys are too.
Nice. Okay, and Daniel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Daniel Griffith. I graduated George Fox in 2018 in marketing, and I work at Viewpoint. Viewpoint's a construction software company. We're owned by Trimble, a public company, and I've been able to work in the product marketing group there. So my job is to organize as well as lead our go-to-market initiatives, and I manage right now 2 portfolios of products when it comes to our go-to-market capabilities between marketing and sales.
Excellent. Okay, let's jump in. So to Jessi, I'm going to start with you on this one. As you were preparing to leave college, what were your goals and expectations? And then how did reality set in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do. I knew entrepreneurship was what I was interested in, but it was like, how do you get into that? And also with a management degree, you obviously don't start out as a manager. So, where do you start? What kind of experience do you want to get? So I decided, I was like, I think I want to get some sales experience and see what I think. And so I just kind of went around to people that I knew and started to learn more about sales. And it was like, I mean, we're always salespeople of some sort, but I was like, I don't think this is exactly what I want to do. So then made a jump to like a tech firm and tried out doing some more marketing. And I was like, this is interesting. I kind of like this. And then, you know, another job change and tried some operations. And I was like, I really like this. And so I think, and then now I do all of those things every day. And I think what I found out for me is just that I thought I had to pick a lane when I came out of college, that I had to be a marketing person or I had to be a data person or something. And for some people, that's great. Like some people do pick a lane. My husband's a finance person. He is in the finance lane and he helps me with finance things. And that's great. But for me, I like to do a little bit of everything. And I kind of had to come to realize like, that's okay. Like when people ask what I do every day, I'm like, I do a little bit of everything and that's cool. So I think I just thought that there was this pressure to like, choose something and then I was going to choose it right away. Like, okay, I'm going to be a salesperson, try it and I'm going to like it. And then I'm just going to do that. No, I tried it for a few months and I was like, I think I'm going to try something else. I just kind of bounced around and had like 10 jobs and, you know, a short span. And I felt bad about that at first, but now I'm like, that was a great experience to jump around and learn all different sorts of things, you know, about the workforce. So, yeah.
Yeah, Victoria, I'm going to jump to you. I have been following you on LinkedIn maybe before you graduated, but at least since you graduated, and saw such an interesting post from you a little while ago, which had us reconnect. Can you tell everybody, you know, what your aha moment has been recently?
Yeah, sure. So I did switch from a for-profit role at a PR agency that was very much, I could see the next 20 years of my life where it was a structure that was very pyramid and I was at the bottom and I started as an intern and then every, you know, 6 months to a year, I knew what my next steps would be. And I went in with like an open mind, not really sure like how long I was going to be at the agency. And I just, within about a year or two, I was like, you know what, I really want to shift to a PR role, maybe in a nonprofit or something, because I'm not really passionate about the things I'm doing right now. And so at about a year and a half in, I started exploring like maybe going to get a second degree in something, or maybe trying a different internship or something. And then I also tried to shift my current role at the agency to get on more accounts that were focused on education and on healthcare and on nonprofit work. So while I was in the middle of that role, I could still be getting experience that would inform my next role. So yeah, I hit a point about 3.5 years in where I just felt like I was ready for the next thing. And I started doing some exploring, and now I do something really unique. I oversee an on-site museum as a marketing specialist and a curator that represents the work that we do at medical teams. So it's a super multifaceted job. It involves all the traditional marketing, but then also curating the exhibit, managing volunteers, and it's just super fulfilling because I feel like even though my other career in PR was pretty different, it still laid like a really amazing groundwork for where I am now. And I can't tell you like how many people have actually come to me being like, how did you make that shift? You know, like how did you end up switching? And it really, it took some years and I'm still like learning as I go. But yeah, as Jessi was saying, like it's okay to try different things and just shift around. You don't have to stay in one lane. And because this is the time to be exploring, you know, like try this type of internship or try this job for a little bit. So yeah, I'm really happy now with the choices that I've made, and I'm really excited for just the next few years of my career as I shift around.
Cool. Seth, Daniel, anything to say about your goals and expectations coming out of college?
Yeah, I mean, I would just add to that, you know, and echo a little bit. When I walked across the stage at, you know, graduation, I had absolutely no idea, you know, what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, right? Like that's a huge decision to make in 4 years, you know, while you're going to college. You know, I would encourage you to find, you know, you know, a workplace where, you know, you're comfortable asking your manager or, you know, whoever you're working with, you know, hey, can I try this? Can I try this? Can I try this? And I've been lucky enough to find that. I've known the CEO of the company I work for like 12 years now. And they allow me to kind of move from, you know, I've tried sales, I've tried, you know, marketing, I've tried, you know, the position I'm in now. So I would just encourage you to find, you know, a place where you feel comfortable moving around and asking your manager for that.
Yeah, I would only add to what Seth had to say, and just, you know, my 2 cents on this are, you know, when I left Fox, I had a set of things that at least I knew I was looking for in the company that I was going to find, you know, and I think things that I really have learned from my time in school, right? So I wanted to be with a good team. I wanted to make sure that the people on my team were as strong and smart and able to do things that I felt like I was for the jobs I was applying. I wanted to be able to find that, and that's something I kind of discovered in my time at Fox, just working in group projects, working in internships, working in side jobs, wherever it might be. And there were a few other things that I looked for, but I think as you're in Fox, as you kind of learn, you experience working with other people, you know, try to understand what kind of environment you want to be in. Doesn't mean you have to decide you want to go down this career path or that career path. Try to find the right environment that you know you're going to set yourself up for, and try to practice the ways that you can identify those environments. Because while you may not know exactly what you want to do in the next 20, 50 years of your life, what you are going to be able to do is you're going to be able to identify when you're putting yourself in a place, you're making the decision, what are you getting yourself signed up for?
That's great. Hey, Daniel, while you've got the mic, can you talk to us about what made you the candidate your employer chose? You know, in that process, how did you set yourself above others?
Yeah, well, for me, when I applied to Viewpoint, which is the place I'm at now, I actually applied to an internship. I saw that as an open door to say, hey, this is really entry level, means that anybody could get into it. Applied for that, and when I walked into my interview and the way I, you know, went through my phone interview and my in-person interview, I really set myself up to say, hey, look, I think an internship's great, but I really pitched myself and positioned myself and really created a presentation around, like, I'm here to be a full member of the team, full-time, beyond an internship. And in that interview, I was able to kind of win them over and say, hey, as long as, you know, as far as we can tell right now, as long as, you know, things don't massively go wrong in the first, you know, few weeks of your internship, we're going to set you up to be able to become a full member of the team and manage parts of what we have. So that was a big part for me, was knowing what I wanted to have going into that interview, owning that, trying to convey and put that forward. I think drive is a big piece that companies look for. I've interviewed lots of interns for my own internships at my company, even interviewed, you know, manager, director level, senior manager level positions, found a chance to be part of those interview processes. And I can tell you, people that come in and do the bare minimum, and this is the same in school, it's the same in work, people that come in and do the bare minimum are not people get excited about. People want to be excited about the person who's going to come in, bring a vision, bring a message to what they want to do. Those kinds of people are going to succeed. And I'm going to tell you that right now, you're in school, you're in a place that's on a lot of ways protecting you, allowing you to be able to grow. You're given a lot of safe spaces to be able to try things out, do things differently, and take that drive initiative. Because I can tell you, when you leave school, you're not going to be able to just flip a switch and on goes drive mode. This is the time for you to practice and hone in on those skills and abilities. Awesome.
Anybody else want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I'll add, I also was hired out of a rigorous internship program. And I just really took every opportunity to, like, be a standout intern, to be the person who volunteered to do extra things, because I knew that the agency specifically hired out of that program. And they didn't hire everybody. So I just recognized that I had a really good opportunity, and I just leaned into the potential that I knew I had for my future.
Perfect.
I just wanted to add one quick thing of
Great.
thinking about as you first come out of college. I feel like there's kind of a couple different paths. So some people really, it's like, you know, kind of what Daniel was talking about, of, you know, thinking about all the different things you want in a company and trying to find a company that matches that. And like for my husband, that's what he wanted to work in a certain type of he wanted to work for a Fortune 500 company. He got into Frito-Lay, and that worked. For me, that was just a lot of pressure of, like, how am I going to find the place with the culture that fits for me, with this that fits for me? Like, that just seems stressful when I don't really even know what to look for. So I just want to say, like, you know, be patient and kind to yourself also as you get out and decide what you're wanting to do. Like, yes, absolutely, culture matters, and you're going to want to find people. But if that takes a job or two, like, you're not doing anything wrong. Like, you know, and just, you know, just be kind, because I ended up in some jobs where I was like, okay, I'll get some IT experience. Why not? And then I'm like, whoa, I don't want to work with these, it's not just not IT in general, but a specific team I was working with. I was like, okay, I don't want to do this, or let me out of here, or, a boss that was harassing people. And and it's like, oh man, should I have done a better job picking this? And, as I look back, I'm like, well, I still got experience on what I like, what I didn't like, what doesn't work, how not to be a terrible manager. So yeah, I'm just trying to say, be kind to yourself, be gracious to yourself as you look for the jobs that you're really going to find a fit in, because it can be kind of overwhelming to find like that perfect job, because I don't think there's just one. There's lots of different great opportunities that you can learn and grow from.
Perfect. Yeah, you guys are doing a great job of walking us through the process. And so to me, the next thing is, what got you where you are today? Was it the little steps or the big steps, or what got you where you are today? Anybody?
I can continue on that. For me, it was just trying lots of different things and always being willing to go outside of what my role was. Like in one of my first jobs, I was hired as a salesperson, but when I got in, I was like, it was a really small nonprofit, and I was like, the website's terrible. Like this, what are you guys doing? Like, what is this marketing thing? And they're like, oh, well, you can take over the marketing if you want. So I said, okay. So I took over the marketing, and then we needed to hire people. And they're like, yeah, we don't have job descriptions, or we don't know how to interview people. So I was like, okay, I'll start doing that. And then built out like, the operational processes for the company. And pretty soon I went from being a commission salesperson to a salaried person plus commission, and like having a director level role within the nonprofit. And then in every role I've taken, I've just kind of always expanded it. And that helped me ultimately land a job at Adidas. So like if you're looking for a job like at a big Fortune 500 company or a big, brand that you love, having that variety of experience and things that you can directly apply. Like I applied for a marketing operations role at Adidas. So I had that marketing and operations piece that I jumped into, not because I got hired in those roles, but just because I did them and then could speak to that in an interview. Yeah. And I think that is just really important. And then for me, Adidas, big companies are great for some people. It wasn't the great fit for me, but it also gave me a lot of experience to help now be building the brand that I am building, just to be able to I have the tiny company experience. I have the giant company experience of, okay, how do I scale Live Bar's growth, in between those. So it was a good launch pad into my next role.
Seth, what about you?
Yeah, I completely just forgot what I was going to say because I unmuted right at the very beginning of this question. But yeah, I would definitely say, and I think this goes up, kind of back up to the last question we had. It doesn't necessarily take a certain skill set to get a job. It doesn't. What it takes is your ability to be open-minded, to be flexible, and to be patient. As Jessi was saying, not only with yourself but also with other people. And you also have to be driven. You have to be driven to know that even though you don't necessarily know what your future looks like, you don't know what job you want, you don't know what you're going to do, you can't necessarily give up on that, right? I mean, I had I was planning right after college to move to believe it or not to Austria, and my first job out of college, hadn't had any experience other than the 2 years I had in an internship, and just go to work there. Unfortunately that didn't work out, but I was driven enough and knew the right people and asked the right question, and ended up with the full-time job. So the ability to be driven definitely played a role in where I am today. And I like to think I'm a pretty open-minded, flexible person, and it takes a lot of learned skills to get there. So
yeah, and I would also add, I think for me, the two key words were patience and resilience. Because I was at Wagner for about 4 years, and it was such a big company and it was so competitive that like sometimes you were on an account that you did not like. Like I was on the AI account for a while and I was just like, I don't know what's going on. And I remember like looking at my fellow, like my peers who were like, I don't know if I can take this anymore. I really, really want to be on like the Lego account or like, the wine account. And I'm not there yet. So I think I'm going to quit. And I'd have to like kind of encourage them like, hey, you know what? I know this is tough right now, but things can change in 2 to 3 months. So if you just dig in your heels and like try to like add some more tools to your tool belt, I think that you can get where you want to be. And that's what I did, is I dug in my heels for the last 2 years at Wagner. And I did get on those accounts. It just took a few years. And even like people within the organization were like, Victoria, I know that for years you've been audibly saying you want to work on the Microsoft Education account. And I'm so proud of you for finally getting there. So I think it just kind of speaks to like, don't necessarily let yourself just like fester in a place where you're just not growing at all. But if there's a place where you know you're going to grow in some way, just stick with it, guys, because your life is really long. And like, I don't think you're going to regret the like 2 to 3 months you spend sticking it out at a job to get that extra dose of experience that's going to really help you with your next career.
That's great. So then 2020 hindsight, how important was it to be involved on campus, around campus, preparing yourself versus just thinking of college as its own box that doesn't relate to anything that's going to happen after college?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So when I was at Fox, I definitely tried to be, I kind of always wanted to go into, I used to want to work for Operation Christmas Child, a nonprofit organization. So when I was at George Fox, I thought that as a university, we should be participating, and no one was. We were doing like 100 boxes as an entire campus. And so I went and asked someone in some building, I can't remember, was like, hey, can I start a program? Does anyone care? And they're like, we don't care what you do. Like, go start a program. And so I just kind of was, nosy and, tried to connect to people. So I spent a lot of my free time at Fox working on Operation Christmas Child and trying to get people to donate and working with the community. And we went from 100 boxes the previous year to 1,000 boxes. We landed like a $7,000 grant. And then the next year we did, I think, over 2,000 boxes and landed a $15,000 grant. And if I hadn't been able, I wasn't able to continue it, but we had gotten like K-Love, like radio wanted to be involved, and it just grew into this big thing. It was just something that I was just doing in my spare time because I cared about it. I wasn't thinking like, oh, this is going to be a great resume builder. But being able to, just pouring your heart into something you really care about and trying to grow it and do it, actually, being able to tell stories about growing something in interviews and having that, even if it is an extracurricular activity, doesn't matter that, you're talking about a nonprofit or you raised money for something, like those are relevant experiences to talk about in interviews. And so I'm definitely glad that I took the time to do some of those things, because it was really helpful to talk about like, hey, sure, I'm only 20 something years old, but I know how to grow things. I know how to, build things, and I have a lot to learn, but here's what I can offer you. And that definitely helped me land multiple different jobs.
I would completely agree with that. I think that was a huge part for me in setting up interviews and talking through what I had to offer, the time you have in school, being involved, not even necessarily like for me, it was not like I was involved in organized activities on campus. It was more like taking a classroom project or an assignment from like one of Lori's classes or another teacher's class, and just kind of going to the max with it, I guess you could say, getting a little obsessed about it, doing everything I could. So like one example was senior year, we have a business project. You had to just build your own business. They give you $100 to go out and do this. Most people, they came back and they made like $115, selling snacks or something. And we went out and created like a business where we were creating like all this like inventory and building out stuff, and we were selling thousands of dollars worth of stuff in like 2 months. It was a great case study to use in my interview and say, hey, look, I was able to be a product manager, design a product, work through, distribute it, have other people on a team that had specialized skills. We were able to scale up. We were able to talk through the decisions we made. Like, why did we pick this payment processor to sell our little thing? Well, because this one had a better credit card rate, and we were able to think through all the business implications. It sounds like a little project, or it seems like it's a little project in school, the homework, whatever it is, that's tedious. But if you take it and you go beyond what's the checklist, and you say, what could I do here? What could I have fun with? Break the boundaries. Don't be afraid if the teacher doesn't support it. Sometimes they don't support it, but just do what you need to do to build up the stories you can tell, to say, hey, I am able to take something, like Jess saying, like I'm able to take something and do something great with it.
Great. Well, that leads me into the next question. So if you knew then what you know now, what would you have done differently than being back in college? Anyone? Is that a stumper?
Yes, I can answer that one. Well, I loved college. It was super hard for me to leave. I could not go back on campus for like a year after because I just missed it so much. So I would just say, like, just remember that it's a really unique time in your life, and you probably don't have as many responsibilities now as you will in a few years. And you also have a huge like social network at your fingertips. And so I was really, really involved in a ton of extracurriculars, and I have spoken to people who didn't really do a ton during college, and honestly, by their senior year, they did like regret it, and they wish that they would have tried a few more things and like diversified what they were doing after school instead of just like playing video games or like just hanging out with like these two people. So yeah, I feel like I'm like an incredibly sentimental, nostalgic person, just as my personality. So I was very conscious the whole time of like, I'm in college and this is beautiful and wonderful and I'm never going to have this again. But yeah, I think that if you could just have a little bite of that, at least for me, that made my experience so rich because I was aware of like how many opportunities that I had at my fingertips. So yeah, do the things, sign up for the things, stay up late, have fun.
Nice. All right. Hey guys, start sending in questions for this group. They certainly want to respond to any questions you might have. You know, so everybody isn't always a joy to work with. How are you building, or how have you built your how to work with difficult people skill?
Okay.
Seth, you going to start us off?
Yes, this is the reason I can. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. So how many of you guys have ever been in a project? And I think I actually used the same example last time. Where, how many of you guys have been in a project, you know, your group, where you kind of have looked at your group and said, it would be so much easier if I could just do this by myself and not have to worry about other people's schedules or other people's mindsets or like, you know, involve anybody else. Like it'd just be so much easier. And I see a couple people, you know, nodding their heads around. It doesn't end when you're done with college. You know, projects, you know, with other people continue for the rest of your career, right? You know, I work with a couple people that, you know, the rest of the company, I work for the firm I work at is only 18 people. So, you know, we all talk and communicate. And the team that I'm on includes two of the most difficult people to work with at our entire firm. Like people that have been there for 12, 13 years have told me these are the two most difficult, and they gave that to me as my first job. So that's great. And, you know, one thing that you have to remember is that, you know, while, you know, a big part of who you are is your job. You know, when somebody asks you what you do, that's a big part of, you know, how they're looking at you, how they're, you know, seeing you. It's not your entire life, right? It's not like leave your work stuff at work. You know, if you have a disagreement, leave it at work. Don't, it doesn't matter as much as you think it does in the moment, right? So again, patience, flexibility, and being open-minded. You're always going to work with people who have a different mindset or a different idea than you, you know, a different way of handling something. And you just have to be willing to, you know, kind of put that aside a little bit, work with that person, you know. Again, projects don't end in college. You know, when your professors tell you they don't end in college, guys, they don't end, you know, when you graduate, when you walk across the stage. You know, so patience, open-minded, and being flexible. You know, I work with somebody who has been at this firm for 8 years, and this person hasn't necessarily been promoted a whole bunch, you know, and she's very bitter about that. And it's very tough to work with this person. It's very, very difficult. But again, it's not my whole life. You know, if that person feels that's the attitude they want to have, that's not something I can control, you know, that's not something you'll be able to control. And then, Lori, you mentioned tying this into, you know, working with different managers. You know, again, people have different mindsets than you do, and they always will. the experience I just had, basically December and November, the CEO of the company got rid of the entire C-suite. We didn't have a director of marketing. We didn't have a director of sales. We didn't have a COO. He took it all back and took all of that control again. We've now hired a new marketing person part-time. So we're kind of doing all right, but he's still the CEO and COO, right? And it's been difficult. It's been difficult to see that change, and when you start in a position, you'll begin to be more passionate, I think, than you think you will, about, what you're doing. It could be, one of the things we produce is a white paper. It's just a long essay. Like, why am I passionate about, this like 6-page paper that I know nothing about, that none of the material makes sense, right? It's just because that's your job. And you'll have opinions, so just make sure that you're able to mold those opinions. If you feel comfortable to share that with, your boss or whoever, make sure to mold that in a constructive way, rather than, coming across as if you're complaining about it. Because if you're complaining or making sure everybody else in the room knows you're frustrated, it's not going to help you, and that's part of the reason why this person, hasn't necessarily, been promoted very much in the 8 years, they've been there. So just remember, work is work. Your life is your life outside of that. Patient, try not to sound like you're complaining, and it's okay to be, passionate about what you're doing.
Daniel, did you want to speak to this one?
Yeah, I'll do it real quick. I had a similar experience where I started with a great manager, amazing guy. He ended up leaving the company, going to another position, a different company, came with a new manager a few months after that. And I can tell you, it was like a grenade went off every single day in the room, and a lot of challenges, socially, culturally, management wise. Our roles changed. And then the hard part for me was, and has been, other departments in the company were not on board with where he was taking us. And so we ended up kind of being put in the middle of a ping pong match between him and, 5 or 6 other groups around us. Things have gotten better with time. I can tell you the key, things. I think Seth's message is great about, work is work. Have a healthy balance of that. And also say, make sure that you do not quit a job because of a bad day or a bad week. You have to be able to have some perspective. You need to be able to discipline yourself, to not get emotional when you talk to people. Never send an email to create an emotional reaction to somebody else. Don't ever do that. You don't need to do that. You need to be able to have other people around you to support you, to guide you to do the right things. Sometimes you're going to disagree. You need to learn to disagree with other people, to be able to approach things the right way. And you also have to be able to learn to sometimes say, hey, look, I don't buy into my boss's vision of how I should be doing this job, but I'm going to have respect and honor for him. I'm going to do what he's telling me to do, and I'm going to pretend in my mind that this is the right way. And sometimes you find like, hey, this is actually working in some parts here and some parts not there. I think you owe it to him, and you owe it to whoever it is that you're working with to buy into the leadership that's given to you, and to respect them and treat them with the right honor.
That's awesome. Okay, I love this class. I can always count on these guys. Here come the questions. So from Abigail, what's your worst work experience? Anyone? Jump ball.
I definitely have a few. I went through a lot of different jobs, so there was lots of opportunity for them to go weird. One of them was when I tried working in IT. That was at Kaiser Permanente. It was super interesting to learn about IT, but I was on when I got there, they forgot they had hired me. So I came in and I was like, hey, like, who's my manager? And they're like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm here. I'm the new like business solutions person. And they were like, yeah, your manager left, so we don't actually have a job for you. But I was on payroll. Like, I was there. I was officially in the program. So, and like, no one would talk to me. It was people that were just so ingrained in what they were doing. Like, I would try to go around and talk to people on the IT floor and be like, hey, how's it going? And they were like, why are you talking to me? No one talks to each other on this floor. Or one time I tried to bring in cookies and they were like, why would you give a cookie to someone else? that's just weird. And I was like, I don't understand this place. Or I would hear people be like, oh, the project I've been working on for 6 months just got canceled. That's okay. And then just like move on, like, just like, you know, just like it's just a normal day. And I'm like, how is everyone just okay with all these things that are happening? And so, it was really depressing at first, but what I ended up doing is I just wandered the building and would go to every floor. I went to every employee lunch, anything that I could find, and just started being like, hi, my name's Jessi. How can I help you today? And I ended up like touring hospitals and getting to help all different people. And it ended up being super fascinating. And by the end, people were like, how do you know how the company works? You've only been here a few months. And I'm like, well, I talked to other people. They're like, you can go to another floor. I seriously had people say that to me. They were like, you went to another floor? Like it was like forbidden. And so that was just a very odd work environment. Some people love working there. So it wasn't a good fit for me for sure. Cause I was like, oh yeah, we need to get this done. I'll just call my friend on, you know, the 8th floor. And they're like, what? You know someone on the 8th floor? So I was just like, this is not where I want to work, but it was still a very interesting experience. I also had an experience where the manager was actually harassing people, like sexual harassment, religious harassment. People were quitting every day. People were turning in complaints, and it was a law firm. So literally the HR person was like, well, we have an employment practice. So, you know, if they sue us, then, you know, we're the best at this. So there's nothing we can do. You can be harassed as much as you want at work. And I had attorneys say to me like, you're a woman and you had a thought? And I'm like, oh, okay. Or we'd get called like very offensive terms as a female. And I was just like, what? It was horrible. Every day I drug myself in and I was like, what names am I going to get called today? And, you know, who's going to get harassed and quit today? But I still tried to make the best of it and meet people that, you know, I did like, and try to build allies of the people that I could and get some experience. And I really tried to take note of, okay, how do I make sure I never do these things to someone else? Because this person somehow ended up on a path where they act like this. How am I going to be really intentional to not do this to someone and end up on this path? So, because it happens, you know, people end up on bad paths. So how can you take note when you have a really bad experience to not go down there? And I ended up leaving. At one point I was like, I can't be a part of this and watch this every day. And so I left. I didn't have another job lined up. And that's when I ended up at Adidas. So, you know, things work out.
Cool. All right. Okay. From Kyle, if you could go back and change how you carried out your college experience, what would you do?
Yeah, I can kind of speak to that one a little bit. I was somebody for the majority of the time I was at George Fox that was taking 21 credits every semester and had, I think, a minimum of 3 jobs every semester. So I had my internship. I was working in the chemistry biology stockroom. And then was doing some odd jobs here and there. And that was really stressful. And, you know, if you're putting your stress into the right things, it's very good, right? But one of the things I would change during my time there is, you know, taking more advantage of the fact that I was, you know, at college. You know, you don't need to take 21 credits. You know, unless for some reason, you know, you have a graduation issue. But if you're just the type of personality that says, I'm going to do the most, you know, every single time, you know, it's okay not to do that too. You know, it's okay not to be stressed out every single second of the day. You know, that's what I would say. You know, and again, if you care about what you're doing, you know, and you're willing to put that stress and that time into it, absolutely 100% go for it. But don't do it just to, you know, run yourself ragged. I remember one day specifically my sophomore year, where I slept through all of my classes. I went to bed at like 8 o'clock the night before, slept through every single one of my classes, and then woke up at like midnight because I was so exhausted and so stressed out about everything. And it wasn't on purpose. I just slept through all of my alarms. That's not healthy. So, you know, just make sure you're not getting too stressed out. That's what I would say.
Okay.
I would say I was, I think, 2 classes away from a double minor with sociology, and I just decided not to because I didn't want to spend the, you know, extra few thousand, and I do regret that now because I love sociology, and I think that those classes would have been really fulfilling to me if I would have just tried to add that on. I know it's like a little bit contradictory to what Seth just said, but we're different people. But yeah, I was just thinking about how now I'm, I'm working in humanitarian aid and I'm really interested in sociology, and I wish that I would have leaned into it in a collegiate environment a little bit more.
Could you go back and pick up those 2 classes? Do you know, Victoria?
I haven't really looked into it yet, but sometimes, because when I'm looking back, often I reference things I learned in my sociology classes and my conflict resolution classes in like nowadays, and I'm like, I was really into that. Like, I should go back. So I should look into that. I'm gonna make a note.
Yeah, there you go. All right, cool. So a question coming from Amy. I know you've mentioned that some of you have been on interview panels for internships. What is your best tip for nailing an interview?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Yeah, I've interviewed, probably over a dozen or maybe 15 interview people for different internships for around my company. I can tell you, people who actually do some research into the company that they're looking at. And I don't just mean you go on the website and you see a word and you start repeating that word. Understand the company, understand the role, understand who you're talking to. Am I talking to a manager or a director? Am I talking to a VP? Who am I talking to? What kind of company is it? Is it large? Are they owned by a private equity firm, which means that they want to accelerate growth really fast? Are they owned by a publicly traded company? Does that mean that they want to, be stable and recurring revenue, all these sorts of things? So think about the kind of business that you're applying to. That's the first thing. From there, know the person you're talking to, know the company, and start telling stories about how you, taking the skills that you have done through school, through other internships, through projects, whatever it is, and align those with the things on the job requirements list. A thing that I've done, and I've talked about this in other classes I've been at Fox, and I can be happy to talk to any of you offline about what this looks like. But what I did is I presented a piece of paper which was with the T-chart on it. On one side was copy and pasted all of the requirements for the job. So all the things that they had, literally just copy and pasted. And then I had a grid and I laid out, hey, from the resume, which is still there, so give them a resume. From the resume, what were the key things I did that specifically satisfied every single point on that? And I said, like, hey, look, in the in-person interview, I handed that off. I said, this is to help you in your decision-making process. That was a big help for me. And in fact, when my boss left the company, he was a director, he left, went to another company, he's now a senior VP, and he's like, Daniel, I used that device to get my new job. So I would highly recommend, apply yourself, your skills to do the work. Last thing I would you guys with is I think that everyone has a different philosophy and set of advice around resumes, interviews, how to do those things. Be prudent about how you approach those things. I would say one thing that I feel like George Fox notices from George Fox candidates that I've had a chance to interview compared to other universities. George Fox students tend to have this feeling, and this is just my opinion, of like you kind of want the person to like you, because when you're George Fox, you're known, right? You are known academically, socially, spiritually by everyone around you. So you have this holistic view of like, you need to like a person to get through an interview. And that's not what's required. What's required is for you to say, I'm here to do a job. I'm here to show you I'm capable of doing that job. And whether or not you like me or not, don't get worried about that kind of thing. It's about creating confidence about your capabilities.
I just have to step in here and tell a quick story on Daniel. If for anybody listening to him and going, dang, this guy's just got it going on. I wish I was as strong as he was. I wish I was as confident as he was, whatever you might be thinking. I've known Daniel for quite a while, and he was a speak softly and carry a big stick when in college. I mean, he didn't have to answer first. He often wouldn't answer. You could tell he knew it, but am I saying anything that you don't agree with, Daniel? No,
you're right on.
Yeah, he was happy in the back row, and you could tell he was learning, but he just didn't need to exude anything. And you listen to him now. When he came to the panel last September, I told him he got the Most Improved award. He's just an incredible individual, and you can tell how confident and savvy he is, and there's nothing that will hold him back now. And so for anybody sitting there listening and going, gosh, I wish I could be him, I'm too shy, I'm too introverted, you can do it. You just need to want to do it. And he's just done an amazing job with his career.
Thank you, Lori.
So, you betcha, Daniel.
Lori,
So here, I think everyone, so again, yeah.
I just wanted to add one thing for the nailing an interview. Just from the other side of, in the last year, I've interviewed about 100 people, hired 30, fired 10. So, just from and I think it ends up being everything that Daniel said is like, those are for sure going to make you stand apart. Also, don't underestimate the little things of just showing up looking like you care and that you came. Also, like, just being like emotionally and like physically engaged in the conversation of like leaning forward and like asking questions and showing that you're interested in the company. It's not just, oh yeah, well, I'm kind of interested in this. Like that, I end those interviews like, I had a meeting, like I have another call. Sorry, I might call you later. And, I end the interview right now because we're wasting each other's time. If someone's is not interested in the job, you would be, even at Adidas, there are tens of thousands of applicants per job. The people who make it to the video interview, we would see things like a person straight out of college would say, hey, I'm awesome, I don't have any work experience, and I'd like to make $90,000 as an assistant. And we were just like, is this person joking? And they weren't. So when it comes down to, especially like at these big companies, what it takes to be a qualified candidate, there aren't that many steps. Like, try, be confident, be yourself, come prepared, like Daniel talked about. And it's really is that simple. Like there's not like magic secret sauce. It's down to the basics. And like they say like, that people form an impression of you in the first 10 seconds of the interview. That's 100% true. Like you immediately can tell like, oh, this person's engaged, they're excited about this job, or nope, they're just, here for the money, or they're here because their mom made them come, or, you can just tell. So I wouldn't, don't overthink of like Lori said, like, I can't do that. You for sure can. Anyone can. Like it's the basic skills that end up actually being really impressive. You would be amazed of how people show up to job interviews.
I have to add one tiny little thing to that. I think that is absolutely dead on right. All the little tiny cues. I will also say, and this for me, and I think this is really true. It's not fair, but something that's true for anyone that's our age. Me, you guys, we're all in the same span of we're young. There's perceptions that older people have about us. If you pull out your phone at work, I don't care if you're working on work or you're not working on work, you will create a perception that you're not working. And I think that that's very true for a lot of people that are 50 plus. They see you on your phone, even if you're doing something work related, it's challenging. So I made a rule for the first year almost. I worked in my company. I would never pull out my phone unless it was lunch or if I was getting a call from somebody. So think about those little perceptions.
And don't answer your phone during an interview. I cannot tell you how many times that has happened where they're like, can you wait a moment? And they go answer the phone. And I'm like, yeah, don't come back in. We're good. So yeah, just don't answer the phone in the interview.
Okay, this is going to be a numbers game. I'm going to ask you all this question. This comes from Jessi. How many times did you change your major? Daniel?
0. And I'm a little spoiled with the fact that I took marketing classes in high school. So I knew what I wanted to do for quite a time.
There you go. Victoria?
I changed it once. I was majoring in organizational communication, and I knew I wanted more of a global business perspective. So sophomore year, I switched.
Okay. Seth?
One time I was a biology, I can't say that with a straight face. I was a biology major my freshman halfway through my sophomore year and had a little bit of a quarter life crisis, we'll say, and then switched over to business.
All right, awesome. And Jessi?
One time on my first day, I was also an organizational communications major, and I went into the comm building and I was like, I'm not feeling this vibe. And I walked over to Hoover, and Kelly Borer was in there and super happy, and our former dean, Dirk Barham. And I was like, I like these people. So I signed up to be a business major and never left.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, from Annie, what was your favorite memory from college? Anybody?
Oh, I have zillions, guys. Let's just grab my journal. Honestly, what came to mind is I was in the music program, and I was in concert choir for 3 years. And every year we have this big Christmas concert, and it was just beautiful to make art with people. It's kind of like a contrast to, I mean, being in the classroom. So yeah, my extracurricular being in choir was wonderful.
Okay. Anybody else? Too many to mention.
You guys
Okay.
sign an NDA, I'll reveal mine.
Nice.
What did you do? Did you pull a prank? Did you?
Some excellent pranks. Yeah.
All right, let's move on then. From McKinsey, what is the best resource for finding internships? That's a great question.
Yeah, if I may, there's a couple, well, a few actually. First and foremost, your professors. You know, more likely than not, they have a lot of connections in the business world. They know, you know, they communicate with their friends, right? Like all of us do. And they talk about, you know, opportunities they have, you know, issues they're having in their company, et cetera. So your professors are a huge resource. Another resource would be, of course, the Idea Center and you know, your academic coach. I believe it would be Kelly for most everybody here. She has a lot of great connections as well, you know, and they have like just a running tally of people, you know, that need, you know, an intern, you know, that are looking for people to work for them. Also the people, you know, one of the things I've learned in my short time in my business career is never burn a bridge. You know, even when you can pull on people that you knew in middle school or high school. You know, like I said, I've known the CEO of the company I work for, you know, 11 or 12 years. So the people you know can be a huge resource as well.
I would add one little piece of that is say, don't be afraid to keep applying to more things. For me, in my senior year, I remember talking with my friend Dom, who recommended I apply to Viewpoint. He told me, we were having this chat, and I think it's very true, is you kind of have this paralysis by analysis. You're looking at all the, you know, job opportunities. You're like, I can't. And worrying about a job opportunity is not the same thing as applying for one. So I would encourage you to apply for as many as you can in a thoughtful way, not just applying to apply, but thoughtfully. I know it's an investment of time, but it's worth it. And you can't beat yourself up if you're not hearing anything back when you haven't really submitted tailored resumes or tailored information to anybody.
You know, playing off of what Seth said and a little bit of what you said, Daniel, is the company Daniel's at, Viewpoint, they, gosh, I'm trying to think, weren't there 5 or 6 George Fox?
We had 7 or 8 George Fox people last summer.
Yeah, and now Daniel specifically reaches out to myself and to Colleen when they're going to run an internship program. So talk about people you know, and I think I've mentioned this in class before. There is a genuine tribal feel that occurs with George Fox and George Fox alumni. You don't have to know an alum. Just if you see their alum, reach out to them. I swear they're going to help. Jessi, did you have something to add?
I was just going to say that of like reach, you know, LinkedIn has the best feature ever of that you can search for people that went to the same school as you and just go and find any and everyone. You know, you may not hear back from every alum, but you'll hear back from a couple and meet with them and ask them about, ask them if their company does internships. And because on the other side, like, it's hard to, like, I don't want to read job applications. I would rather just have a nice coffee chat with someone and then hire them for an internship. That's way easier on my side as a hiring manager. So I think that that's a really great way to get internships.
Yeah, and ask who else can I talk to. Continue to get.
Yeah, and you can even kind of create your own internship. So I had a unique experience where when I was about 2 years into the PR job, I was like, I would like to get experience in nonprofit management. So I just started making a list of companies I was interested in between like the zoo and OMSI and a children's museum. And then I went directly on their website to see like what they had listed. And I ended up directly emailing an operations director at the Gilbert House Children's Museum in Salem. And so we kind of ended up crafting an internship for me simply because I just reached out to her. So I was working full time. So this is an interesting point I wanted to make sure I mentioned during this whole chat is you can still get experience in other areas when you have a full-time job. So not like I'm saying overwhelm yourself once you're working, but like if you want to do a little bit more exploring, you can maintain like a small like side hustle kind of thing, like I did. And that's actually how I was able to get my current position. And part of it was I had created my own internship at a children's museum for 4 months, which ended up influencing my current position. So yeah, just start with a list, go to their websites, and don't be afraid to cold email people, because honestly, people do want to help, especially young people. So be bold.
Good one. Okay, here's a tough question from Brennan. How do you develop a drive and vision even when you aren't necessarily passionate about your work?
I'm going to try to answer this one well. You know, a big part of, you know, your work experience is going to be your team, you know, the team you're working with. You may not necessarily, like I was talking about earlier, I don't necessarily, and don't tell my boss this, I don't necessarily care about white papers. Like that's just one of the, I don't really care about it. You know, most of it's information that I don't understand. It goes right over the top of my head. And you know, it's one of the ways we make money, right? You can have a drive for the company you work for, simply based around the team. And I can't remember who was touching on this point earlier. It's extremely important to find the right team. It's extremely important to find where you fit, because you'll be passionate about it if you're working with the right people, simply because they are the right people. Again, it doesn't really matter, you know, well, it does matter. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. It doesn't matter what you do. It does matter, you know, what your company does, you know, because, you know, if you're interested in, absolutely, that's great. Your team more develops that experience for you where you'll be passionate.
And I would say too, if you can, try to like carve out a little specialty area for yourself. My first year and a half, the first account I had at Microsoft was like very deep tech. Anybody know what enterprise mobility is or hybrid data centers? Raise your hand. Okay, a few people do. Okay, some of us, yeah. But I'm sure a lot of you guys in the class, you might not be familiar. And I wasn't expected to be a technical genius about things, but it was a challenge. But once I found out that we went to a lot of tech conferences, I was like, I love event planning. I love people. I'm going to lean into being the person who wants to be on site, interacting with people. And that ended up being like super fruitful for me. I was traveling a ton. And then also to what you were saying, Seth, about lean into like the people in the team. I also kind of stepped back and was like, you know what, I'm actually working with some really cool people. So I might not super love the content, but like my client, he lives in Denmark, and I'm going to learn all about his life and like how he ended up there. And it was really enriching to kind of look at those like morsels of goodness and like develop those. But it is challenging though. You're definitely, I'm sure everyone has a story where you've been in a job where you're like, I'm not passionate about this, but just try to carve out those little areas, and you never know what could happen from it.
I think a key thing that like Victoria is saying is you have to be willing to learn. So if you are the kind of person that you're going to see something, go, I'm not passionate about that, I'm not interested, and you're going to go, no, I'm not going to pay attention to it, I'm going to slug out, I'm not going to do my best, I'm not going to even try to get done what's really being asked of me, you're going to miss out on the ability to find passion, because passion is not just this immediate like chink, like it works. You have to be willing to learn, and as you learn, you'll find something that works.
Excellent. Okay, from Ashley, what resource do you regret not using on campus?
I hear they have these like rental things where you can like rent like canoes and kayaks. I kind of wish I'd done that at some point.
Yeah, I never went to the, I don't know if you guys still have the annual retreats, because I was always too busy, but I heard that those were really cool. It was like $25, and it's like a social thing, you know, not really related to your career life. But yeah, there's like cool, like really subsidized things that I wish I would have done.
I would also add, And I barely know what the Idea Center does because I didn't really use it. But I probably would have used the Idea Center a little bit more. You guys are working on, your first internships or your first jobs. They can help you with your resume. If you're nervous about that, they can do mock interviews with you. Joe Tuvenal, I worked with him a lot, interviewing, doing some mock interviews just to see what that would look like. And he literally looked at my resume, helped me develop LinkedIn, and they're there for you for that. So.
Great. Okay, what classes and experiences prepared you the most for your career?
I have the mic, so I would focus on classes that you're going to get real world experience in. It's tough when you're in school to get your head out of the book, right? And it's tough to differentiate what you're learning in the book and then apply it to your career, right? For example, Lori had we were doing Intern U, which was basically starting a company. My major is entrepreneurship, so they kind of fit together. So classes where you can take real world applications. Now, I don't know what George Fox looks like now, in terms of what courses they're offering, but I would talk to your advisor, see what they say about those kind of courses. Lori's a great resource as well, because she wants students to have those experiences before they go to school. So advisors and Lori and find those courses.
Yeah, I would add to that and say Lori's classes are fantastic. Shameless plug. Our 485 class is a great one to take, so take that one if they still have that or an equivalent. For me also, I had a marketing major, history minor, and for me, a lot of some of those classes, the higher up ones, you'd be able to defend your case, what you were writing, what you were researching, being able to build out an argument, defend it. I really enjoyed that. There was a business law class at the time taught by two guys that I think they retired that year, but anything you can get into that you can take where you have to defend what you write, what you read, what you're doing, that's great. And then for me, another key class I would recommend, I also took a lot of classes in the School of Art and Design, and for me that was a big piece in branding and learning about that. Highly recommend it if you're interested in marketing, and Ashley Lippard, who's a teacher there, teaches some really great classes on that. I'd highly recommend any of her classes.
So I was a comms minor, and I would say the one class that always stuck out to me was conflict resolution. It both professionally and personally. So I hope that class is still there. I think it was Ron Mock who taught it, but it was super helpful, and especially relating back to that question about working with a difficult manager. Yeah, I really love that class. I think it's really applicable for the rest of my life.
Great. Christina asks us, what is the hardest part about transitioning jobs or roles? How would you recommend navigating these transitions?
I can start with that one because I did have a career shift. It was super hard. Honestly, probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life was switching from the PR agency to the nonprofit role, because I had been there for 4 years and I had all these personal connections, and it was super hard because I'm a people pleaser. And jobs, if you're doing a good job, they don't want you to leave. They will do everything to keep you there. And I really had to realize that at the end of the day, this is my career and this is my life, and it's going to be better for me and the company in the long run for me to pursue what I'm actually passionate about, because there's nothing worse than having a slug as a worker, right? And so that's quite an image, you guys. You have to realize that companies at the end of the day, this is tough medicine, but you're replaceable, right? And so if you are able to find something you're so much more passionate about, another company wants someone just like you. So spread the wealth. Don't feel so personally attached to your first job. Maybe you'll get lucky and you'll love it and you'll stay there forever. But I would highly recommend being willing to open up and look around and not be so concerned about offending anyone personally, because the company, here's the thing, it will go on without you. And it's really going to be better for you in the long run to probably move on. So it's very scary. But as long as you are honest with yourself about it, and like honest with your feelings, and like just try your best and don't be afraid to vent to someone about where you're at. You can do it.
Perfect. From Conrad.
Oh, Lori.
Oh yeah.
One question I think it got missed was, what would you look for if you were in the position to hire new graduates from George Fox? Did you?
I was going to come back to that, but
go
go
okay.
ahead.
Okay. Are you okay with me going for it?
Sure.
Okay. I got excited about that one because I am in the position of hiring people and interns. So this speaks to me of just, a really important aspect of what I'm looking for. And I think it's what we talked a little bit about earlier of people that are engaged, people that are acting like they really care, and people that follow up. That is my biggest thing. And I said this on the last panel last fall. I said, follow up 5 times, 10 times. Like, you can't bother me enough. I had coffee with 4 people from the last class. We had great conversations. They wrote down okay, I was like, I will send you links. I will send you referrals to get these jobs. And they were like, great. I was like, but you have to email me to get the links because I need you to show that you care about them. Only 1 person followed up. And, I'm just offering you free jobs and connections. So when you're applying for jobs, I also want to see that of, you reaching out. And one of my best hires at Live Bar, she wrote an email just to me, found our company and said, hey, I love Live Bars. I am good at these things and I would love to work for you. So give me a call if you think I can help you. I called her the next day, brought her in, and I hired her the day after that because she showed that she was really committed, that she was really interested. And I mean, she follow up, called me of like, hey, how would this work if I came on? And so I also had a person that I was going to make a job offer to, but I wanted to have them follow up. Like, they nailed the interview, but I wanted to see their follow-up skills because they were applying for a sales position. I gave them a week to follow up. They didn't follow up. I never made the job offer. So, so I just want to, emphasize that it's about that follow-up and commitment that is employer, especially at a startup. I can't make a bad hire or I will have to fire them quickly because we all have to get along. Like, we're small. So you just have to show that commitment because otherwise I can't make the commitment to you if you aren't going to make the commitment to me. And so out of a new grad, like, I can teach you, Live Bar can teach you a lot of things that you need to know. I just need to know that you're eager to learn, you're excited to learn, you're humble, you're graceful. That's all I need to know, and that you're going to show up every day. Everything else, like, sure, we can show you how to, use this system or whatever. I'm interested if you have skills and have learned, to tell me about other skills you've learned, but it's really just about how you show up and that follow up piece. Follow up always. Like, when I was at Adidas, I had the way I got my job was I had a coffee with a woman that said, hey, I'd like to hire you. Like, we just had coffee and she's like, do you want to work on my team? And I said, sure. It was 4 months until an opening happened on her team. She thought it was going to happen a week after our coffee. I followed up with her every week and said, hey, how are you doing? Here's this new tool I found I thought might be helpful to you. Or, hey, I saw this in the news about Adidas. How does that affect your department? We talked every single week. The moment that job was posted, she emailed me, had me apply through a backdoor, like a back end link. And I immediately was in like the top 2 and then was able to land the job. So that follow-up piece is just so important.
Great, thank you, Jessi. Jessi, Seth, Victoria, Daniel, with your permission, can I share your emails with the class? Okay, awesome, thank you. All right, we have only 5 minutes left, a couple of questions here. Let's do a rapid fire. From Conrad, what skills have you found most important when starting at a new job or position?
Ability to learn about a company quickly, and I think become the expert in that company, not just the expert in the role. Learn about your company, and that's more important than maybe even like the role you're in. If you can know your company well, understand what's going on, you'll figure out all the other stuff along the way.
Awesome. What staff or professors did you find most helpful to communicate with outside your major?
For me, it was Tim Shikandarides, the Greek professor. Of all people. I ended up being I took a Greek class just kind of for fun. loved it, ended up being a biblical studies double major, and took every class I could from Tim. And it was so helpful to have a totally different view of the world on the business world. It was so amazing. People are like, you take Greek? And I'm like, yes, it's so relevant to what I do every day. And they couldn't understand the connection, but I thought it was great.
Awesome.
I stayed really connected with Dr. Kevin Jones in the communications department, and he's one of my favorite people. I ended up being his intern my senior year, and so even though it was only my minor, he was really influential in my career in communications, even though I was a business major.
All right, so last question from students, from Alex. How are you following your dreams with your current job?
I think this one is all about, perspective. My job right now is not my dream, but I'm learning, right? So it's all about perspective. This is a stepping stone, to achieving, the dream that I have for my life. You're not always going to be in the job where you can look at it and say, this is the piece of the puzzle that I've created for myself in my mind of where I want to be in, however many years. It's all about perspective, how you're looking at it.
Great answer. Okay, so for everyone, Jessi, going to start with you. If you could have your own tagline, what would it be?
So I would have to say I have two. Sorry to break the rules. My first one is always, it actually comes from like an online group that I'm in, but it's grace over guilt, of that it just doesn't do any good. Guilt is not motivational either to yourself or to other people. And so to just act with grace to yourself and others, I think is something that I always try to keep top of mind. And my other one is to be intentional. Just whatever you do, don't let the currents sweep you wherever. Just, if you're going to do something, commit to it, and you do it, and then you decide when not to do it. But be intentional with every single moment that you have.
Daniel, what's your tagline?
I'd say it's assert responsibility. So don't be afraid to assert yourself, own processes, own the tasks you're given. That gives you, eventually people will see it, respect it, and it'll give you freedom to do what you want to do in your job, and be able to do that.
Seth, your tagline.
I'm going to shamelessly steal this one from you, Ori, and you know that I was going to do this anyways. And I just touched on it a little bit. Do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do. Again, just kind of, down here working away, learning so I can do, achieve that dream that I have.
Perfect. And Victoria.
I love this. As like a positivity queen, I love this part. Actually, this quote I learned from a woman when I was like 15, and I was thinking about becoming a fashion major, and I spoke to a professor at a fashion school, and she told me, the world is your oyster, and it's been my favorite ever since. So yeah, look for your pearl, you guys. I know that's kind of cheesy, but it's true.
Okay. I want to thank this group so much, Jessi, Seth, Victoria, Daniel. I hope you all enjoyed them. I hope the class enjoyed your words. You're amazing. You're amazing. And I give you applause for sure. Emily, you have one more note for us?
Yes, it's 2:40 right now. So everybody who's still on the call, please sign in again. And we're going to use your names now that you sign in for attendance, not the beginning, so that we're tracking who is all staying in class the whole time. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. I hope everybody has a great weekend. And then I am your speaker on Tuesday. Can't wait to see you. Bye-bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, guys. Reach out if you need anything.
Yeah, same here.
Thank you.
Thank you.